All right, welcome to the PropLinq AI podcast, where we dive into the leaders who are transforming real estate by rethinking systems, access, and impact. I'm Stuart Quintal, the founder of PropLinq AI, where we help property businesses build smarter pipelines and revenue machines using AI. My guest today is on a mission to crack the housing access problem in America, but it's probably not unique to America. It's what's sort of been raised around the world with housing affordability. Now, Lord Munjal is the founder and CEO of Utopia Homes, which operates America's first and only currently rent-to-own exchange. They don't build homes. Instead, they partner with local landlords and agents to help renters build equity and move toward ownership through a tech-enabled, transparent platform. Lord, welcome. Let's jump in.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart, for having me.
Now, as I sort of mentioned, like the whole home ownership and the home affordability isn't just a unique problem to America. Can you share what inspired you to launch Utopia Homes and what gap you saw in the housing ecosystem?
Sure, happy to do that. So, Stuart, this problem has been there for a very long time. It's harder for more and more people entering the American workforce to buy their first home. In the last 50 years, the problem has become acuter, and the quantum of the problem increased multifold in the last few years. And here is why. One, single-family homes in the country became super duper expensive in relation to the salaries that people make. On average, salaries increased by 2 to 3%, whereas home prices in some states, some cities have gone up in high double digits on annual basis. Combine that with the fact that US is dealing with multi-decade high interest rates, which have a direct impact on mortgage rates. So now you have multi-decade high mortgage rates. So making it harder for people who are new to the workforce or do not have deep credit histories or not enough down payment to make to buy their starter home. So the great American dream of being a homeowner has never been this elusive. And this was a problem that I personally dealt with while working with Bank of America Merrill Lynch as well as with Citibank, that how the mortgage side of the business was rejecting a lot of customers who had jobs, but maybe did not have long and deep credit histories, maybe did not have enough down payment to make. So US on one side has very friendly mortgage programs through Fannie Freddie or FHA, but on the other hand, still a decent chunk of population is not eligible to buy their first homes. So to break down that pie, this market is a $2.5 trillion market. The number of households in the country, let's assume a high level number of 100 million households, out of which homeownership hovers around mid 60%. So now you have 35 odd million households who are renters. Now, some of them choose to be renters. Some of them are renters by compulsion. So if you remove the renters by choice, that's like 20-25%. So if you peel that off of the total population, you're still dealing with 25 million households who would love to be a homeowner. Now, with programs like Utopia, you may love to be a homeowner, but if you don't have enough income, then you won't be able to afford your home. So, but let's say that you have income, you don't have down payment to make right now because you're new to the workforce or you're still building your credit. Then let's assume that population is around 20-25% of this remaining pool, which comes out to be around 8 million households. So these 8 million households are the ones who could get immediate help from a program like Utopia in making their dreams of a home come true. So that's one side of the problem. from the customer side. The other side of the problem is landlords. Landlords who have rental property or investment property in their cities or somewhere else. So these are not the properties where they live, but they bought them to generate rental income, are finding it harder to get qualified customers, as a result of which they have to keep their homes vacant for a long time. So typically it's taking around 3 to 4 months, depending on which state, which city you're talking about, to get a qualified renter into a rental property. Not just that, because renters have a temporary mindset. So the repair and maintenance expenses for the landlord come out to be on a bit on a higher side. So Utopia is solving these two problems by offering country's first rent-to-own marketplace, where we bring in landlords who have single-family homes to rent and customers who want to rent and ultimately buy these homes together. So these landlords get access to qualified renters who have the home buying budget supported by their income or salaries to get into these homes, pay rent, and ultimately buy these properties. Also, these rent-to-own customers are happy to pay slight premium over a typical monthly rent in that market because they appreciate the option to buy that property at a later date. So Utopia gives these customers up to 3 years to buy these properties from the landlords, and landlords basically sell that option to the customers to buy this property at a later date. Now, farther out the purchase date, the higher the price is. So we bake in a typical home price appreciation of 4 to 7%, depending on where the market is and where the market is headed in that local geography. Not to mention the fact that during this course, when the customer is just renting it from a landlord, because the customer has a ownership mindset, as a result of which the repair and maintenance expenses for the landlord are 50 to 60% lower than giving that property to a typical tenant, because the rent-to-own customer has a ownership mindset. So it's similar to a typical human behavior, how you treat your own car versus how you treat a rental car. So now our landlords on one side are able to maximize their returns, minimize their repair and maintenance expenses, and our customers on their side are excited about staying in one home for a very long period of time rather than getting displaced at the completion of the term of the lease, which is typically 1 year, and being at the mercy of the whims and fancies of a landlord, because the landlord may say, sorry, I'm going to sell the property, or sorry, I need another set of tenants, or sorry, you cannot live in my property anymore, and all those things. So the tenants have continuity because of the longer term nature of the lease, and ultimate option to buy the property from the landlord at a predetermined price. So I hope that gives you a flavor of how Utopia model works.
Yeah, it's quite a powerful model, the way you describe it. It's sort of becoming ownership as a service as well from a platform perspective. Now, your mission is home ownership for all. What core values guide how you built the platform?
Sorry, your voice was cutting in and out. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. Your mission is home ownership for all. What are the core values that guide your team in how you built the platform?
So the core values that guided our team was similar to the core values that go into the building of any honor-based startup. So the core values that drove us was, one, let's do right thing by the customers. And when I say customers, I mean both landlords as well as tenants, because both are our customers. We also are using the flywheel of the agents, and they're like million odd agents. So we want to make sure that as part of the core value, it's a win-win for every constituent involved in the equation, which is landlords on one side, customers who are looking for rent-to-own homes on the other side, and then leveraging the help and support of our fellow real estate agents. And there are like million odd real estate agents in the country. And by bringing all these constituents together, doing right by them, making sure that it's a win-win for everybody involved, was the core value that became a linchpin for Utopia homeownership program.
Mhm. Now, you mentioned there around the agents, they're earning full commissions and closing faster with Utopia, but how are they using Utopia to unlock new leads?
So let's look at it from the persona of a typical agent.
Mhm.
So let's say John is a typical agent in Atlanta, and John has, let's make up some numbers to make the example clear, a couple of hundred customers who have been rejected by mortgage banks. John, as a realtor, makes commission only when the deal happens. Now, these couple of hundred customers who are not even approved by the mortgage banks are not that useful a pool of leads for John. So in Utopia's case, what John can do is John can onboard these customers through the agent portal. As these customers get onboarded, they get a message, which is a collaborative message between Utopia and John, the agent, saying that, hey, listen, we understand that you're not mortgage ready yet. Would you like to apply for a Utopia program? Utopia program application is free and requires a 5-minute commitment from the side of these customers to complete their application. Once the application is completed, Utopia underwriting team underwrites these customers. Some get approved, some get rejected. The ones who get approved are given a home buying budget. And the ones who get rejected, we encourage them to basically give us an opportunity in 6 months' time. By that time, hopefully, their credit would be slightly better, or their income would be slightly higher, or their loans would be slightly lower. Because Utopia can work with anyone who has a FICO of 550 or above. So consider Utopia to be a feeder program to the typical mortgage programs of the country. It's just that the size of the funnel that we deal with is bigger than the size of the funnel that a mortgage bank deals with. And we do a lot of things under the hood that we will deep dive into shortly, like helping these customers who come through the pipeline to improve their credit score as they make their timely payments. We report it back to the credit bureaus, as a result of which their credit score starts to improve over a period of time. Also, we make sure that they're saving enough for down payment as part of Utopia Wallet. So by or before the end of the program, they have enough down payment to make. They have far better credit. Hopefully, they make more money in income too. So all the stumbling blocks for a customer to become a homeowner are getting alleviated or removed from the journey to become a homeowner. Now, for our agents, to go back to the original question, so the agent is able to monetize these leads, which were pretty much dead for this agent. And now agent can track, of the 200 odd leads, how many applied, out of those who applied, how many got approved, out of those who got approved, how many have a home buying budget that an agent is comfortable working with. And now agent can track that progress on the agent dashboard and work with these customers who are now approved and have a decent home buying budget to help them find a suitable home for them. And as agent finds these customers um, and find a suitable home for these customers, and the deal gets closed and the agent gets full commission from this. The same agent can also onboard different landlords. So let's say the agent has 3 homes for which the landlord has given the mandate to the agent to find a suitable customer. So an agent can onboard those landlords or those properties on Utopia platform. We showcase those properties to our other approved customers in their geography. And if there is a fit between what the customer is looking for and what the property has to offer, and the deal is made, then again, the agent who is representing the landlord makes a full commission from the deal. Similarly, landlords can do that on their own too. They don't necessarily have to need an agent. If the landlord wants to list their property through Utopia platform, we encourage them to do so. And on the other side, customers who say, you know what, I don't have money to pay to the agent in commission, that's totally fine too. Customers can also apply directly to the Utopia program free of cost.
Okay, so you sort of walk through some of the business model thing. If I can double click into, like, I guess the platform and tech now, like, how is Utopia using data and software to power the exchange?
Sure. So Utopia is using a lot of automation, lot of machine learning and AI in the backend to underwrite the customer in the fastest and the most efficient way possible. Once the customer is approved and customer is brought into the approved customer bucket, only then they can bid for or show interest in a property. So this way, landlords doesn't have to deal with customers who are not approved or who don't have the aligned budget in relation to the value of the property. For example, if you are a landlord who have listed a $500,000 property on Utopia platform, we are just wasting your time if we are matching you with a customer who's approved for $300,000 budget only, because that customer in near to midterm would not be able to buy your home. Similarly, if a customer is looking for $1 million property, again, we are wasting customers' time and your time if we are trying to match this customer who is willing and desirous of buying $1 million property in that city to match with you who has a $500,000 property. So this matching happens automatically on the platform too. As new properties come, we expose those properties to our customers, again, using the rails of technology. And we say, hey, listen, this could be a potential match for you. Would you like to consider this home, as these homes come to our platform? And if the customer expresses interest, they can go visit the property, check it out. And if things work out beautifully, we get all the paperwork done between the customer and the landlord. And our customer makes the payment to Utopia, and Utopia pays the landlord what is required to be paid. And customer moves into the property and now has up to 3 years to buy this property. A Utopia makes commission only when a deal is done. We don't charge landlords for listing the property, and we don't charge customers for completing the application through Utopia program.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned, like, Utopia Wallet. How does that work? Um, what's I guess the big benefit of Utopia Wallet?
Excellent question. So Utopia Wallet is basically a holder of the customer's deposits till the time the customer is able to buy the property. Um, to simplify the example, customer has to have some skin in the game because landlord is locked in with the customer for that 3-year time window. Landlord cannot sell the property to anyone else for the 3-year time window. So what we request the customer is to make a deposit of 3%. Consider it a option premium that a customer is putting into the Utopia wallet. There are going to be two outcomes for this customer by or before the end of the program. One, customer is ready and willing to buy the property. In that case, this money gets credited back to the customer and applied toward the purchase price. The other outcome is customer is no longer interested in the property because of personal or professional reasons. Most of the reasons could be around life-changing events like, divorce, loss of job, health issues, and stuff like that. Now, in a situation like that, a customer forgoes the 3% of the option payment that the customer has made into the Utopia wallet. And even that outcome is better for this customer than had this customer bought the property and now was selling the property because of the same reasons that we discussed, which is loss of job, death, divorce, health issues. Because imagine if a customer buys the property and within a couple of years now the customer has to sell the property, customer loses upward of 10%, 5 to 6% in realtor commission. There is a cost of capital for the time period when the property is vacant. There are property taxes. There is homeowners insurance. There is cost of upkeep of the property. So roughly speaking, it all adds to 10 to 11%. Whereas in this case, customer is only losing 3% for walking away from the property that they had chosen to ultimately buy in 3 years or less. And what Utopia does is Utopia turns around and gives this 3% to the landlord on top of the rent. So landlord is also satisfied that they got some additional amount on top of the rental income generated through the platform. And now we work with the landlord to find another qualified replacement tenant for the same property. And if the customer had moved to a new city, we also help the customer in buying the new home in the new city if they are still interested in rent to own. So that's how you know at a double click level the program works.
Um, as you've been scaling the platform and also um, the business as well, you say I see that you're live in over 25 states. What's been resonating most as you scale? Has it been the yields or the occupancy rates, or actually the access to the program? What's been resonating most as you scale?
So what has been resonating the most for us is the success that we are experiencing in Midwest and South. So in the Sun Belt and the Rust Belt. And the reason is that at all these places, at almost all the times, the property is cash flow positive for the landlord. So let's say a typical landlord would have a mortgage at 4 to 5% rate, although currently the mortgage rates are, in the 6% range, but assuming that they bought it earlier or maybe got it refied at even lower rate, I'm just taking the weighted average. But even if you assume 6.5% in mortgage rate, even then, if the landlord is willing to make 11% or so in rental yield, it's a cash flow positive property for the landlord. And also, if the home price is adjusted by 5% or so on annual basis, then return on assets for this landlord is 11% plus 5%, 16% roughly speaking. And if the landlord has used leverage at 3-4% level, then this return goes even higher to as high as 30% for the landlord in terms of return for equity. That clicks very well with these landlords. Combine that with the fact that repair and maintenance would be lower for these landlords. On the other end, for the customers too, it works beautifully because now they're living in the property, they're living in the neighborhood where they intend to live for a very long period of time and ultimately buy this property too. And had they gotten the mortgage currently, even if they were mortgage ready, it would have cost them even more because 6.5% is like a mortgage rate, plus there is property tax, plus there are other elements, plus you have to make the principal payment too in your monthly payment to the mortgage bank. So net, your cash outflow is still higher, even if you're mortgage ready. And mind you, we are working with customers who are not mortgage ready yet, helping them improve their credit, making sure they have enough down payment to make when they're ready for a mortgage. So that resonates well with the customers. And now it's a win-win for all our constituents as we take it forward and helping these customers become homeowners ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a great sort of model, and it's obviously resonating well with a lot of the parties. Um, Speaking of looking forward, what's next?
A lot of things which are in the hopper for us. Property management area is huge. Our landlord wants less of the hassle of the property management, and they're happy to outsource it to Utopia, or if they're already using some property management company, then maybe aggregating that under Utopia umbrella. A lot of automation is happening as we speak, so that customer requests and landlord requests could be addressed in a faster, more efficient manner. Our AI agents over a period of time are getting smarter too as they ingest these requests, and they are able to address them automatically as we go forward. For example, if you're a prospect, although it's listed in FAQs, listed on the site, still the most common question you would have is, how would the program work? What if I don't want to buy the home ultimately? What if I want to buy the home sooner? So these are standard questions that an AI agent can quickly answer uh, as they are sent to us through voice, through text, whatever medium the customer is choosing to communicate us with. So that kind of interface is in the pipeline. Property management side is in pipeline. So super excited about the possibilities ahead.
Yep. Now, if you could solve one major problem in the ecosystem, what would that be?
One major problem in the ecosystem would be the acute shortage of starter homes in the country.
Okay.
If you look at the starter home permits drawn by the home builders in the country, you see that they are getting fewer and fewer. So builders are focusing more on more expensive homes than starter homes.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, what is happening currently is the new household formation rate of the country, which means two people coming together and starting a family and looking for a home, is more than the starter homes hitting the market. So this gap is going to get worse and worse. And if I could solve just one thing in this equation, then that would be availability of starter homes. So making the permit process easier for the builders and maybe incentivizing the builders in making more starter homes than just focusing on, you know,
High
more
end.
expensive properties.
Yep. Okay. Um, yeah, look, Lord, this has been a wonderful sort of conversation. I've learned quite a lot from you, and I'm sure people listening to this will as well. You're showing how real estate platforms can democratise home ownership, not just sort of connecting the home buyer and the seller. You're actually sort of helping a market that's underserved, and also providing home ownership a reality for a lot of people. Where can people learn more or connect with Utopia Homes?
Sure. So you can learn more on Utopia on our website, which is utopiahomes.us. Also, you can write to us at support@utopia.cx. So I repeat, support@utopia.cx, so Charlie X-ray. And we would be happy to address any questions that you may have in your journey of either finding a suitable rent-to-own customer if you're a landlord, or you're finding a rent-to-own home for yourself, or if you're an agent, then how to help you monetize your leads and getting more and more customers for your landlord listings.
Yeah. Lord, fantastic. And for listeners, if you're a real estate business looking to automate lead pipelines, build smarter systems, and grow using AI, visit us at PropLinq AI, and also check out what Lord's doing at Utopia Homes. Fantastic chat today, Lord. Thanks for supporting the channel and also providing these insights.
Sure, Stuart. Thank you for having me over. I appreciate your time as well, and look forward to working with your listener slash watcher base in their respective home buying journeys.